I just found this out because I know y'all had this, and I'd come before, maybe about 3 or so weeks ago, but there was something else going on that day. So then I just didn't come the week before Christmas, so let's start the first of the year.
All right then, very good. Now, when we have table topics, would you be interested in answering the questions, participating in that?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Thank you very much. Okay then, great, great. We have a great agenda for today, and I am going to ask the Toastmaster of the day to come up. She is our Vice President of Education, none other than Jonna Jacobs.
Thank you. How's everyone doing today? Waking up to the new year. I have one announcement that there are flyers on the back table for the open house next week. And my offer still stands. $10 Applebee's card to the person who brings the most guests.
Say that again. I heard
$10 Applebee's card to the person who brings the most guests. If someone wants to claim Charles now and get him to come back next week, that would be wonderful. Without further delay, I'll introduce our grammarian, Toastmaster Camille Wilder Hairston. Thank you, Camille.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished Toastmasters, and guests. The word that I've chosen for today is accentuate, and it is a verb, which means to emphasize or intensify, as in accentuate the positive. So that's what I'm trying to do. It comes from the Latin word accentus, which means accent in Latin or emphasis, and I think it would behoove us all to accentuate the positive, to try to focus on what we have versus what we don't have, and to be a positive influence on others. So the word today is accentuate.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What is that movie, Accentuate the Positive, blah, 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 the negative? Anybody? I know I'm not good at re-singing songs in a way that anyone could recognize them. But let's accentuate our situation today of having a somewhat sparse speakers forum. I'll now welcome Toastmaster Monique Mananu to come and give our Toastmaster Minute. Thank you, Monique.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Today I'm going to be talking about the 7 tips to evaluate your elevator pitch. And this will cause you to draw potential customers with a 60-second speech. The world of business moves quickly, and in times you only have 60 seconds to make a great, lasting impression. So 7 tips to assist you with that would be, one of the tips is to go with your gut. And I know typically when we say go with your gut, we're thinking about your instinct. For this particular point, we're talking about stay fueled up and make sure you eat a healthy snack, something that will fuel you so you won't lose energy, and it helps make you to feel confident when you're full and ready to impress. Number 2, present your business as an opportunity. Hook your target by framing your pitch as an opportunity. When we see moments that we meet people as opportunity, then it's easier to compel them to work together with you. Number 3, keep it simple. Sometimes we give a lot of details and give too much information, and we go on and on and on. If we keep it simple, get to the point, then that helps with our pitch. Number 4, remember your enthusiasm. No one is going to be enthusiastic about what you're talking about if you're not. So just remember to think positive and be enthusiastic about your pitch. Number 5 is cut to the keywords. You want to scrap cliches, I know it sounds cute and sometimes it's catchy, but you don't want to use cliches. You want to kind of get to the point, especially when you don't have a lot of time to make a great first impression. You want to build hype, number 6, and that builds excitement. So when you're trying to pitch an idea to someone, you want to build the hype so people can be excited about what you're talking about. And number 7, find common ground. And when you find a common ground, this creates a connection between you and the other person. And you follow up by asking insightful questions. So today I've given you 7 tips to evaluate your pitch, and it'll help you to make a great first impression in 60 seconds. So to ensure that you're making the most of every opportunity, check out the 7 steps that I've given you, and it'll help you to deliver a perfect and powerful business pitch. Thank you.
Did anyone pick up a couple of sheets of paper that had maybe a prepared speech on them? Starts with something about a stonecutter, perhaps? All right. Our first speaker today is none other than Jonna Jacobs, competent communicator. And she'll be speaking from the storytelling manual. The project, the moral of the story, and the title of her speech is The Stonecutter. Since I've lost my notes, here we go. So this is a story that's adapted from a Chinese fable that is generally referred to as a Taoist philosophy. And the way I like to tell the story is that one day there's a stonecutter working, doing his job. He has a fine life, fine family, a fine wife. And yet something about him feels dissatisfied and wishes he could, thank you. Okay. Something in him makes him feel dissatisfied with his life. And that night he wished for a better life. One day on the way into town, he passed a luxurious mansion, and he peered through the gates and he saw a garden party going on. And he saw just the most wonderful gardens and a gardener and party guests dressed in the finest clothes, and he thought, wow, that must be a really important person in there to have such a beautiful house with such important friends. Look how pretty his family is. My wife is not that pretty. My children are not that pretty. Look at his friends. They look so important and established. My friends are not that great. They borrow money from me and they never pay it back. Borrow my tools and I never get them back. That guy's got it going on. I wish I were that man. And suddenly, he became that man. He enjoyed the party, and he said his goodbyes to all his friends. But before too long, his old wife and family came by, and when they saw him inside the mansion, they cursed his name. And his old friends came by, and they saw him in the mansion, and they cursed his name. And he said, well, I feel bad for them for not appreciating that I've improved my station. Then one day he saw who must have been a very powerful man because he was riding atop a throne that was being carried by people, and soldiers were all around, pushing through the crowd. He thought, wow, that man must be very powerful. I wish I were that man. And suddenly he became that man. And he was the one being carried through the crowds. But soon he realized that the people around him, most of them did not seem like they cared for him too much at all. And they cursed him and waved their fists at him angrily, and he became angry and dissatisfied with that position. It didn't help that that was probably the hottest day of the year, and the sun shone down directly on him. He was getting really hot and sweaty in this throne. And he said, that sun, nothing's more powerful than that sun. I wish I was that sun. And guess what? He became the sun. And he was so powerful, he shone bright. But then he realized, wait a second, I'm just sitting up here all day, going around the earth. That's a joke, because the earth goes around the sun. I don't have anything to do up here. This is not what I had in mind. And he grew angry and dissatisfied. And he shone brighter and hotter than ever, and he scorched the fields and the earth below, and all the people below cursed his name. And then this cloud moved in front of him and took all his light away. He said, well, that cloud just came out of nowhere and blocked all of my light. He didn't even know it's like he didn't even know I was here or how powerful I was. I wish I were that cloud. He seems really powerful. And guess what? He became the cloud. But again, all he did was float around up in the sky. He didn't have anybody to talk to. So he became angry and dissatisfied, and he rained down on the earth, and he flooded the fields, and he tore up the farmer's land, and he wreaked havoc wherever he went. And then one day, he felt something pushing on the side of him and just pushed him out of the way. He said, well, I just got pushed out of the way. They obviously didn't know how powerful this storm was. And he realized it was the wind. He said, well, that wind is pretty powerful. I'm going to be that wind. I wish to be that wind. And guess what? He became the wind. Then he realized, now, unlike the clouds and the sun, nobody can even see me. So I'm going to blow as hard as I can and rip the tiles off houses and tear down the trees. And he blew as hard and hard as he could, and everyone below cursed his name. And then he came up against something that he couldn't blow. He blew and he blew and he blew, but this would just not move. And he tried everything he could to move this thing that didn't recognize how powerful he was away. And it was a rock. He said, well, that rock is obviously the most powerful thing there is, and I wish to be that rock. And so he became the rock. And then one day, he felt this little tick, 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 and he looked down, and there was a little stonecutter picking away at him. And the moral of the story is to be content with what you have and rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there's nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. The other moral of the story is be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Jacobs. Thank you, Donna Jacobs, for that wonderful speech. We do not have anyone signed up for the Speaker 2 position. Does anybody feel like they have something they want to get off their chest? All right then, without further delay, we'll ask our third speaker, Brittany Lee, to come up and give us her speech for the day. Brittany Lee. I do not have one. It's a surprise to us all.
Curiosity.
The tension builds. Thank you, Toastmaster Lee.
Greetings, Toastmasters. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Today, I want to talk about the gift of peace of mind. It's during this holiday season that we usually go out and spend a ton of money on different items, toys, gadgets, and whatnot that we'll use for a couple of months, maybe a year, and then push it to the side. But I want to encourage you all to consider a practical gift, an unusual gift, but a practical gift. And when I'm talking about the gift of peace of mind, I'm talking about pre-planning your funeral arrangements. I know that sounds odd, but with the changes in technology and our culture, I'm sure many of you have seen Facebook posts with GoFundMe advertisements asking for people to donate money to help bury a loved one. But we have other options. We have life insurance, and we also have prepaid funeral arrangements. By a show of hands, how many people have looked into or are knowledgeable of how much a funeral would cost? Okay, a few of you. Would you be surprised to hear that to bury someone could cost you about $10,000 to $13,000 on the cheaper end? Well, I was shocked when I found that out, and it made me really think about my options. I have decided to be cremated. It's a lot more affordable, and they have prepaid plans for that as well. But I really want to urge you to think about that. You know, we just had the holiday season, and I always think it's so tragic to hear about a loved one who's passed over the holidays, because going forward, that family will, that's what that day is going to be marked by, the death of whichever loved one that it was. But not only that, it could also put a damper on the holidays. If you're having to be burdened with the stress of now planning a funeral, instead of celebrating the holidays, especially if you're having to scrape together money to be able to pay for a funeral. There are plenty of people who have gone into major debt trying to bury loved ones in an honorable and respectful way. In addition to that, grieving in and of itself is such a hard thing to do. But when you add to that the burden of the financial cost of burying someone, it can be quite overwhelming. So today I want to share with you some other options other than GoFundMe to take care of yourself and your loved ones. I would encourage you to plan a family meeting or maybe send out a letter to let people know about their options. There are some very affordable life insurance options. As I mentioned, there are prepaid funeral service arrangements. Those things, the prices of those things go up every year. The services alone can start at $3,000, and that's not including the casket or taking care of the body, the clothes, things of that nature. So you have life insurance. You can have life insurance through your job. You can have life insurance outside of your job. And I recently heard, I'm not sure if it's legit or not, but they have a life insurance plan where you can pay a few dollars a month. It's almost kind of like a it's like you pay a few dollars a month, but it doesn't cap anywhere. I mean, you get a certain dollar amount and you pay a few dollars a month, but it doesn't pay off. You have to kind of pay it continually. And whenever that person passes, you have X amount of money to spend on the funeral. That seems to be a very affordable option, but that's something I would kind of look at with caution. And then again, we mentioned the life insurance plans through your job. The Arkansas Department of Health gives you $10,000 at no charge to you. So consider adding more to that when you do the enrollment of services, and it can be pretty affordable as well. And then go to your local funeral home service and schedule an appointment to sit down with someone to have that conversation to see what your options are. The last option that's the most affordable is to consider donating your body to science. I know a lot of people aren't very interested in that, but it is something that you can do to preserve your financial situation and not have to put a lot of stress on your family. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lee. Next up on our agenda is table topics. We do not have a person who has signed up for that, but I guarantee that David Rudney is just biting at the opportunity to lead us in our table topics. Please help me welcome David Rudney. David Rudney.
Like the holiday season, the joy of topics is the joy that keeps on giving. And I can tell by your face that you cannot wait for the opportunity to get up and give an impromptu speech. So happy we have a guest here, Chuck. Let's give Chuck a round of applause. So excited. Of course, we don't call in guests normally, but we're willing to make an exception in Chuck's case. No, we don't have to call on you, Chuck, unless you want to, but you don't look too excited about the opportunity. So,
No, it bothered me.
is that right? Well, then we will call on you, Chuck. But before we do that, we'll call on someone else to show you how a typical table topic response goes. But this is an opportunity to help people speak on their feet rather than on their seat. The theme will be quotes. I will ask you to interpret a quote. Just tell us what this quote means to you. Quote is, "I sought my God, and my God I could not find. I sought my soul, and my soul eluded me. I sought my brother to serve him in time of need, and found all three, my God, my soul, and thee." And who will interpret this quote for us? To interpret the quote, I will call on Antoinette.
Toastmasters like me, fellow Toastmasters and guests, my God, my soul. I interpret that quote to be a person in a state of struggling, distraught, matters that have overwhelmed that person. They are searching for an answer to a problem they cannot solve, to a problem that has come to them often. Perhaps this is an episode that takes place when they are by themselves. They begin to think about all of their past. What has happened? What would occur if I had a relative, or a person with a relative that passed away during that Christmas time? How can I get to the proper resources? How can I put that person in place with dignity? Perhaps it could be a situation in life where they are making one of the biggest choices they've ever made, and that is to go to work for a company that pays them good money. Perhaps it is a situation where they have lost their very best person, a relationship of many years. They have to seek for many answers. Who do they go to? Soul, speak unto me. What is this tearing portion inside of me? I need an answer now, and I need it now. Oh my God, are you there? Where are you? I hear you in the room. O-Z incident that lies within your heart, the answer to the question. Back to you.
Thank you, Antoinette. Wow. And I believe the person who authored that quote was Stephen Covey. I heard it from Stephen Covey. Now, the next quote is a quote from Les Brown, who said, "Life is like a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you don't want will automatically take over." Life is like a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you don't want will automatically take over. Can you interpret this quote in 1 to 2 minutes? Or what does it mean to you? Or just anything that comes to mind when you think about that quote. And I will call on Chuck.
To me, it goes back to the story, to be careful of what you wish for, is what I still see out of that. Are you talking about Les Brown, the band leader, said that, or what?
The motivational speaker and author.
Okay. Yeah, because there have been goals I wanted to attain, and once I attained them, I sure wished I hadn't. You know, especially when you work in a bureaucratic field like education, you know, so we see here every day. You know, we have competition, you know, for our own ideas, dreams, and goals. And you always have people who are working counter to the goal you want to often. And, you know, you've got to, I guess it's like picking your battles, I see it. You know, do you really want to do this, but you know, somebody's going to be really PO if you do it. You know,
Yes.
you accomplish it. I guess that's what I see, you know.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Wow, let's give Chuck an extra round of applause as a guest facing the fear of Toastmasters. And speaking of fear, here's another quote. Tell us what this means to you. Maybe a personal story you want to share about this particular quote, which is one of my favorites. Mark Twain, I believe, originally coined this quote, which is, "If you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain." If you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. And to interpret this quote, or tell us what you think about when you hear this quote, let's call on Distinguished Toastmaster Biddle.
You do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. That is a very interesting quote. If you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. I don't know if I want to answer. I'm going to answer something else. Did y'all know that UMS was laying off a bunch of folks today?
No.
Yeah. They're eliminating 600 employees, the 600 positions and laying off 260
Wow.
as of today. Now, that would put a huge strain on some of us. That was me. If that was me, that would be a fear. That would definitely be a fear. But if that was me, I would say, okay, can I just retire today? Because, you know, I've been here for all these years. Can I just use my retirement? They would probably say no, because you know how they do. You know how they do in the state. They'll probably go, no, we can't do that. But if they just allowed me to retire, I probably wouldn't fear it. Because I can retire. But some people, but my understanding is it's the people that they probably be the people they just hired. And if they just hired them, they can't do that. So that'd be a case of, if you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. Can you fear being laid off? Can you? I guess you can. Mr.
Wow, thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Biddle. Do we have time for any more topics? Actually, we'll ask our timer. Are we out of time or any more time? Ah, well, we'll keep going then. The excitement grows. Maybe we'll even call on the same person twice. No, we won't do that. But maybe we will. Maybe we will. All right, here's a quote I like from Brian Tracy, who said, "A great life is like a great ship. It's not held up by a single hope or by a single rope." A great life is like a great ship. It's not held up by a single hope or by a single rope. When you think about that quote, what do you think about? Toastmaster Brandy.
A single hope or a single rope. When I think about that quote, or how I would interpret that quote, it's just thinking about life in general. Life is surprising. Life can pull you different ways. And life isn't just about one thing. It's a lot of different moving parts with life. You think about your family, you think about your job, you're thinking about coming to Toastmasters on Monday, making it here on time. You think about Jonna sending these emails at 8 o'clock in the morning telling you to sign up for a Toastmaster role. That's just life. Life has so many things, so many ropes, so many hopes. One hope won't destroy your life, and one hope won't make your life. Just like rope. I'm in CrossFit. I just started CrossFit, and I seen this rope back there in CrossFit. And I thought about, what am I going to do with my life? I seen 5 ropes up there. I'm like, do they want me to climb all 5 of these ropes in CrossFit? Then last week, they came up where we had to do a handstand push-up. What did I do with my life? What was I thinking about when I wanted to try CrossFit? I was getting bored with my workout at 10 Fitness. I was doing body pump. And my friend said, try CrossFit. And I did. And I like it so far. I guess because I'm paying $85 a month, so I don't have a choice but to go. But I'm going to go, because it's life, and we have all these ropes, and we have all these hopes, so I'm just going to roll with it. Thank you.
Wow. That's right. We're only as free as our options. That's what I think about when I hear that quote. We're only as free as our options. Excellent, excellent response. Well, we'll do one more. How about that? This is kind of a long quote, but it's a great quote. You may not have heard this, but actually it was a quote that was framed. Originally it was from Abraham Lincoln, but it was framed and given to Winston Churchill, I think on his, I don't know what birthday it was. I think maybe 75th birthday. And Winston Churchill kept this framed quote, I believe, above his office, and he looked at it a lot. It's a great quote. Abraham Lincoln said, "If I were to read, much less answer, all the attacks made against me, this shop might well be closed for any other business. I do the best I can, the very best I know how, and I mean to keep on doing it to the end. If the end brings me out all right, what has been said against me will not amount to anything. If the end brings me out all wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference." Isn't that a good quote? And to interpret that quote, I will call on Toastmaster Camille. Or anything you think about, maybe it reminds you of something in your life, anything you'd like to share.
Can't repeat the whole quote, but what I got out from it was that sometimes we spend too much time worrying about what others think about us, and it holds us back. And that's something that I've had to learn. One of the lessons I've had to learn as I've grown up, gotten older. I don't want to say that people's opinion does not matter at all. I don't want to be thought of as a low person, but I can't get feedback from everyone, and I can't listen to all the negative comments. I don't allow compliments to blow me up too much either, but you can't set goals, you can't achieve things if you're constantly worried about feedback. So I'm starting a business. I've had some people say, don't do that, do this, don't do that. I had to go ahead and make up my mind to start my business and get it going. It'll be small, and I'll go from there. But you can't use what other people coulda, woulda, shoulda done to frame how you're going to do your life. It doesn't sound right, but so I've learned that I've got to set goals, make a plan, work toward my plans, and do what I need to do. And then there'll be some that will follow along and be cheerleaders. There'll still be some naysayers, but I've got to do what makes me happy in the end. So to me, that's what I got out of the quote.
All right, thank you so much, Camille. And the best revenge, remember this, to the naysayers that tell you you can't do this, you can't do that, you'll never amount to anything, you can't do this. You know what that is? The best revenge to those naysayers is massive success. And that's what Anthony Robbins once said. That concludes our topics, and we'll turn control to your Toastmaster, Jonna Jacobs.
Thank you. Really good quotes, really good interpretations. Brandy, I started CrossFit 2-something years ago. I still can't do a handstand push-up. I don't believe I ever will, because that's just ridiculous. Why would you do that? Where will that be applicable? We're going to start the evaluation portion of our day, and I'll bring up our general evaluator, Brandy Roberts, to get us kicked off. Thank you.
Thank you. We had 2 great speakers today. I want to bring up our first speaker was Jonna, and the person that will be evaluating her speech is none other than DTM Joyce Spittle. Come on down. That's a workout.
Not that, it's them stairs. Those stairs is crazy. How and ever, I like doing that. You know how you do that when you with your family, you mispronounce a word on purpose? We was doing that during Christmas. But anyhow, that had nothing to do with this. The stone cutter. I kept wondering, where's the stone at? Till you got to the end. That's what kept my attention. I kept going, where's the stone? Anyway, I liked this story, but I kept going, okay, what's he going to turn himself into next? Then I thought, when you got to the stone, I thought, he's going to be turned into the stone cutter's going to chop him all up, and then he's not going to be nothing. That's what I really thought, but that's not where it turned into. This was a very interesting story. The moral of the story is what really got me, as you said. I forgot your first moral, but the second moral, when you said, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. That was really funny. The one thing it did ask was about the vocal variety. One of the things I've noticed about when you do speeches is you kind of have the same tone when you're speaking, so that's something you might want to work on, is changing your vocal variety, because it probably would have been even more captivating if, as he changed, because the one thing about the story is each thing that he changed was a different element of the, well, at the beginning it wasn't, but as it changed, he changed into a different element of the earth, or a different element, because initially it was the sun. But as he changed into a different element of the earth, if you had used a different vocal variety to emphasize it, it would have made the story even more captivating. Other than that, this was a fantastic story, because I was like, okay, what's he going to do next? But I love the story. And the way you told it was great. And I couldn't understand why you needed your notes, because you weren't using them. What did you bring them up here for? Other than that, great story. Good job.
For our next speaker, we have Brittany with a Peace of Mind. Brittany, did you ask someone to evaluate your speech? Okay. All right, well, now we'll have Miss Monique to come up here and evaluate Brittany's speech.
The gift of peace of mind was the speech that Brittany gave. And from the title, I thought we were going to be talking about the way it started out about Christmas and gifts and things like that. And it had a little twist about the gift of having peace of mind by not being out of unexpected finances and being burdened with, not properly preparing for your final arrangements. So I thought that was great. The title was great. You project sincerity. I like that you gave us information on how to prepare. You gave options. You told us that we can have a family meeting or send out letters or make prepaid arrangements. So we got options. We were persuaded to do things, to take action, to think. You also gave us the information about having life insurance and visiting the local funeral home. So I like that you gave us things that we can go back and do and discuss with our family. You started out with the question asking, had anyone researched about final arrangements? And a few had, and then you gave us the cost of how much it costs to prepare. So I like that your speech was organized. It was well organized, and you did a very good job, and you persuaded me, and I hope others, to make sure our arrangements are in place, and so we won't be having undue burden on others. So great job.
Thank you to the evaluators who evaluated the speech. And with both speeches, great speeches, even with Brittany, my mom's the same way. Every time somebody dies, she want to have this family meeting. Oh, I need y'all to get y'all information. I need you to pass it around. And so everybody can have it. When something happened to you, do you got a safe deposit box? Do you have this? And then a couple of weeks ago, when the funeral and stuff is blown away, I don't hear anything else about it. So she never follows up on the meeting. But great story. And even, Jonna, with your story, I was the same way. I'm like, what is she talking about with all these elements? But great moral to the story. Be careful what you ask for because you might not know what you're getting. All right. Now we're going to bring up our grammarian, Camille, to talk about the usage of the English language and the word of the day, accentuate.
Good afternoon again, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished Toastmasters, and guests. The word today that I selected was accentuate. I only noticed it used one time by Toastmaster Jonna, and it may have been a word that didn't really fit in so much today, but I'm still going to emphasize and accentuate the positive. Other than that, I noticed that there were a few grammatical errors, but I'm not the odd counter. And I include myself with the uhs and the ums, so we still have to work on our word fillers, the so's and the ands also. So we'll continue to work on that, but other than that, I think we did pretty well today. Thank you.
And the next person we have coming up is Antoinette Mitchell. I believe you did the odd counter and the timers report. You can do both of those reports for us.
Alrighty, thank you. We had a good report from Toastmaster Camille regarding the ahs. We did do the fillers. I did hear the ahs. They're very convenient whenever you need them and you don't know what to say. Let's work on those. I agree with her. The speakers are first and foremost in me giving the timing. Toastmaster Jonna asked, her speech was a storytelling speech. It required 4 to 6 minutes. I was timing for 5 to 7 minutes. She did great though, 6 minutes and 41 seconds. I think she was watching those lights. Whatever you do, speakers, watch your lights. Those timing lights come on for a reason. When you see the red, you need to stop. No one had disqualification today. Brittany, 5 minutes and 9 seconds. She did well in her 5 to 7 minute speech. And I could almost see or feel that she was waiting for that 5 minutes to come. All right, 5 minutes, that's all I got to do. I can sit down after 5 minutes. And indeed, you can sit down. When you're preparing for your speech, you can sit down once you have done 5 minutes. That helps you in your preparation getting started. Don't go too far over. Just put in the main parts. 5 minutes, you got it. You're ready to sit down. You are ready. The evaluations is next. What's important to me, Joyce Biddle did 2 minutes and 19 seconds on the speech of Jonna. The second one, Monique, came up. She did 1 minute and 22 seconds. I believe if you plan, Monique, to participate in the evaluation contest, you will need to go 1 minute and 30 seconds. The whole speech is 3 for the evaluation, 2 for the table topics. So you will need to go a little bit more so that you can get to that mark of just getting in the ring. And I do look forward to you being in the evaluation contest. That is my report for today. Toastmaster Brandy.
Turning this back over to our presiding officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's bring back up our presiding officer, Antoinette Mitchell. Close out our meeting. Do we have any announcements on the side? We would love for everyone, officer or not, to participate in the Officers Club training. There's always, besides actual club officer material, there are sometimes some other sessions on vocal variety, for example, that'll really help you become a better Toastmaster. And if you're thinking about becoming a Toastmaster officer, it'd be a great opportunity to see what you're in for. My last thing is that there are flyers up there for the open house. I think there's 20. Take a few. My suggestion would be to post 1 or 2. We don't want the whole place flyered with our flyers. And then to hand them out directly to people that you think are likely to come. And there is, as I promised, a healthy snack up there. So pick one that you like. They're there because I am giving up sugar, and I had to clear out my office, full disclosure. Thank you.
Oh, how nice of you to share. There is one other thing, isn't it, Toastmaster Biddle? Coming up this week, on the 11th, Thursday, it is going to be the evaluation training at the Advanced Toastmasters Club. Is that still on?
Yes, it is.
All right, very good.
It occurs, Advanced Toastmasters meets on the second Thursday of each month. This month, we will be having the evaluation training at 6:30. Our meetings are always 2 hours long, so the entire 2 hours will be dedicated to that. We usually have 5 speeches, and we will have 5 speeches, but it will be dedicated to evaluation and how to do effective evaluation. We will have a video on effective evaluation. We're going to have 2 speeches specifically on evaluation. And then we're going to have 3 regular speeches, but we're going to have evaluations of those speeches and then evaluations of the evaluation. So we can learn how to effectively evaluate. So I'm asking you all to please come out so you can learn the very best way to evaluate speech. Okay?
Okay, and that's very helpful information coming up to the International Toastmasters Speech Contest that we will be having at the club level on January 29th at this club office meeting. At this club meeting that we normally have. It will be replaced with a contest to see who will go on and compete for the next level. After the speech contest, there will be an evaluation contest. I think it will be most helpful. It will be very helpful. All of those adjectives that we need to put with helpful for going to this meeting on Thursday night at 6:30 at St. Vincent's in the Educational Training Room. Get with Joyce Biddle, APNL/Dunkerton room.
It's really a room that's split. This one side of the room is Dunkerton, the other side is APNL.
Okay.
So we always use the whole room.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I believe that's about all of it that's going to happen. Make sure you sign up early. Oh, go ahead. Toastmaster Camille. Okay, that's fine. Anyone wanting to contribute between now and next week, even next week, I'll help you out for sure on the donation. Toastmaster Chuck, is there anything you would like to tell us about your visit today at the meeting?
Well, no, let's see, I would definitely say it's female dominated, isn't it? How about y'all, how many you y'all you have?
Well, we have 19 members. They're not all there.
Whenever you're ready, you certainly can add to that number. We'll be happy to have you. Anything else on our agenda for today that we should talk about? Xavier will be here. Excellent. That's good to hear. No other business? I call this meeting closed, adjourned.